Welcome to Red-tastic. Story 1. Am I the a-hole for being upset that my father has left everything to my sister? I debated posting this for hours, which is why I'm posting on an anonymous account, because I don't want my sister knowing, and she's very active on Reddit. I was 22 female when my sister was born. From day one, my sister was the apple of my father's eye. My mother had passed away in childbirth. The way she was raised in comparison to me is shocking. When I was growing up, we were tight on money. When I was 19, my father started a small business. It took a while, but eventually took off. My sister, 21 female, and I are complete opposites. My father prided himself on her grades. She excelled in school and is currently working hard with the goal of getting a PhD, while I failed my GCSEs and dropped out of college. My dad recently got a health scare. He's fine now, but he wanted to be open and honest about the future, so it doesn't cause resentment. He has left the house and business to my sister. He has left the rest of his assets, and I'm sure the rest of his assets being my mother's wedding ring, photographs, and other little tokens to me. He is donating what money he has, no investments. Savings are for my children and my sister. He says, since she got a better education, I'm a college dropout since I got pregnant. She is the wiser choice. So not only did he pay for her to go abroad to study, he's also leaving her basically everything. I'm extremely upset. He could have left it for both of us. It shows the clear favoritism. I helped him when he was just starting out. I left and told him I feel like he's acting as though he only has one child. He's already set my sister up to have a good career. My children would inherit the business after me. I told him to text me when he's not overcompensating out of guilt. He hasn't texted. He told me not to tell my sister until she finishes with school. Am I the a-hole? Information. Growing up, all responsibility was on me. He was distant and just didn't act like a dad. He didn't involve himself in my education at all. He hired tutors for her. He paid for the best education out there. He spoiled her. I don't know if he would have done the same. It wasn't a choice for me to pursue school. I would say everyone sucks here, OP. Your dad sucks for his display of favoritism and leaving all his business to your sister, but I wouldn't really blame him. Everyone wants to hand over their legacy to someone they know is capable of making sure it thrives when they're gone. And from the looks of things, it seems like your sister is that someone. You suck because you keep saying your sister is doing better than you like it's her fault. Why don't you go out there and get a degree too? It's never too late, you know? Take responsibility for where you are in your life at the moment instead of blaming your father for it. Have a talk with your dad. Listen to his reasons and tell him your thoughts. I hope you two get to sort things out before it gets too late. Now for some comments. You're the a-hole. You're 22 years old, older than your sister. You've had her entire lifetime to improve your circumstances and do something with your life. Your sister is just starting out, and if something happened to your father in the near future, she would have a bit of a safety net in a home and a way to make a living. As far as the business goes, she probably is the wiser choice. She has shown that she is motivated and works hard. And it's not like you're getting nothing. Your title says he's leaving everything to your sister, but your description shows he's not doing that. He's leaving your sister the business and you all the other assets. Doesn't he have other assets like a house, car, money, valuables? From your exaggeration about what everything means and the fact that you yourself describe that you dropped out of college and would have no clue how to run a business, even if you inherited it, that makes your take on the story sound fishy. You're the a-hole. No a-holes here. OP, I'm rendering this a no a-holes here because I don't know the value of these things. Rest of his assets is very vague and could mean anything. You're not an ass because your feelings are justified. Your dad isn't an ass because I honestly don't know the value to make a judgment. And secondly, having money to raise your sister versus you isn't something he did out of spite. Sometimes you have money, sometimes you don't. Talk to your dad. Try not to be angry in your tone when you speak to him. Your feelings are valid, but the way we frame or present them makes a difference. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for introducing my father and half-siblings as this is my biological father and his kids to my fiancé's sister? I've been with my fiancé for years now, and I'm really close to his family as he is to my family. We are engaged and all set to get married this July. My fiancé comes from a big close-knit family with no divorces. I, on the other hand, come from a typical divorced family background. My parents divorced when I was 5 years old, and my father remarried almost immediately. My half-sister was born the following year, and then a year later, my other half-sister was born. I also had a half-brother from my father's side who tragically passed away 2 years ago. My mother married my stepdad, who I just called Dad, when I was 8 years old. I have 4 siblings from my mom's marriage to my stepdad. At the age of 12, my father had me every alternate week. By the time I was 13 and about to step into high school, I begged my parents to change it to a weekend visitation schedule. After I turned 18, my father moved to a different state for my half-brother's treatment. They moved back to our state after my half-brother passed away. Anyway, most of my acquaintances and colleagues don't know that my stepdad is my stepdad. I call him Dad and we have a typical father-daughter relationship. Only my close friends know that he isn't my biological father. In fact, before my fiancé proposed, he sought my stepdad's blessings. So my fiancé's sister Lily and I were out shopping the other day when we ran into my father and his wife with their daughters. Without thinking much, I quickly introduced them to each other. This is what I said. Dad, meet Lily, my future sister-in-law. Lily, this is Eric, my biological father, his beautiful wife Lisa, and their daughters Emily and Emma. Now, Lily knows my stepdad very well. She's a good friend of my maternal half-sister Jess. She was meeting my dad for the first time, so I didn't want to leave any room for confusion. My father didn't know about my engagement and congratulated me. We had a pleasant conversation and everything. I didn't think much of it. Later that night, my father called me drunk. He was crying and told me that he had no idea he has lost another child after his son. He said he never thought our relationship would end up like this. He talked about my baby years and how I was his little girl and how he changed my diapers and watched me come out of the womb. I was really confused and asked him what the deal was. He then replied, "Biological father? Really?" and hung up. I'm honestly confused, Reddit. Did I mess up with the "he is my biological father" introduction? I had no idea he would feel hurt by this. Am I the a-hole? Information. He wasn't a shitty dad. We just weren't close. I don't have any grievances when it comes to our relationship. I guess it has to do with the fact that my stepdad always went above and beyond for me, so I didn't feel like I needed my father for the little things. He used to be stressed out because of my half-brother's illness. I didn't want to burden him. The situation is very sad, OP. I know you didn't mean to hurt your dad, but after what happened with his son, I understand that he took the comment even more to heart than he would have on a normal day. You said he wasn't a shitty dad. I understand that you both just grew apart as time went by, and since your stepfather was such a good dad, you just unconsciously saw him as your dad. I really hope you call him and apologize to him. Tell him why you called him that and hopefully he understands, and you both rebuild your relationship. Now for some comments. No a-holes here. I think in the scenario you described, adding biological makes sense. I also think it's a reasonable reaction that your father took it as a slight, even if it was unintended. I can't blame him for being hurt. That is not your fault. And ideally, this is something that should be easy to clear up after the fact. If your father is an a-hole, I would say it would be for his actions after all this, if applicable. No a-holes here. You didn't mean to be hurtful, but that's how it came across. For you, it was a qualifier, biological father versus stepfather, both with whom you seem to have good relationships. But that word is contextually loaded and often pejorative. He doesn't think you view him as a father figure, but as some detached sperm donor. I understand his emotional reaction. You just need to have another conversation with him to apologize about the accidental hurt and explain how positively you view your relationship. OP, I'm a firm believer that if your family hasn't done you wrong, then it's always best to be as close as you possibly can. Your father probably already felt insecure about his relationship with you compared to your stepfather's, even though, as you mentioned, he had a very sick child to focus on as well, and you hold no grudges for that. You getting engaged and not telling him, followed by referring to him as biological father, almost definitely made his mind go to, she doesn't view me as a real dad, and will possibly ask her stepfather to walk her down the aisle. Have you even made these decisions yet? I would say you're the a-hole, and I can see where he hurt is coming from as well. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister it's her fault for dropping out? So my sister, we'll call her S, used to be a college student and just finished up her first and most likely last year. As of today, she's on academic suspension and will not be allowed to attend classes for a semester because of her poor performance. S wanted to be a mechanical engineer and was majoring in that, but due to the fact that she never passed her general classes, never got to take any classes in that area. This whole week, S has been crying and bitching whenever someone talked to her, telling everyone that it's unfair and that her teachers are the reason she did so bad. She has somehow convinced my mom that one of the teachers verbally harassed her. Everyone has been supporting her and trying to help her through this hard time. The thing is, S is lying. I go to the same school as she does and am 2 years ahead of her. I know for a fact that she never went to class or did any of the work. The first time she started crying saying that her teacher was mean to her, I went and talked to him. The verbal harassment was sitting down with her during his office hours to tell her she statistically cannot pass his class due to not even showing up to the midterm. She has failed 6 of the 8 classes she took and the ones she passed were with C-. Because of this, she was suspended for 1 semester and cannot fail again. Last night, when we got confirmation, she began to rant saying that her teachers were against her and that it's their fault. I told her no, it's not. She's just lazy and didn't want to put in any effort and is now playing the victim. We argued for almost an hour before she stormed away crying when I told her that she is the stereotypical, sheltered child who will fail at life. My parents are mad at me and say that I went overboard. I don't think so though. Am I the a-hole? Now for some comments. Not the a-hole. She's like this because your parents should be having this exact conversation with her, but are instead coddling her and reinforcing to her that it's okay to not take responsibility for her actions. If they won't give her the tongue lashing she needs to get her shit together, someone needs to. Hell, they probably need a stern talking to as well so that they make sure their daughter can actually graduate. Not the a-hole. Adults need to take personal responsibility. It's not your job to confirm the lies she's been telling herself. That said, maybe she has anxiety or depression. I would encourage you to urge him to follow up on the mental health angles. And this post would be a great warning tale for those who want to take out large student loans because they're majoring in a higher income field like engineering. People change course all the time. Everyone sucks here. I have to say that rarely are people just lazy, especially when it comes to things they supposedly want. Your sister wants to be an engineer badly enough that she's upset about failing, but it's possible that she's suffering from depression or anxiety or undiagnosed ADHD that's preventing her from reaching her full potential. I would encourage her to see a therapist if I were you. That said, your sister should have sought help if she felt she needed it, and blaming other people for her mistakes is not okay.